All right. All right. Peace, family, and welcome back to Rooted in Muddy Waters podcast. I'm your host, Tamika Latoya, and today I have my very first guest of my podcast. She's a beast. Like me and her met and connected on the internet, on Instagram within the homeschool community. I actually was on her show, I think it was last year.
Yeah. Yep.
I was on her show where we talked about homeschool. And originally I was thinking like, okay, well, I can't do every episode by myself. Like I need some guests. And I'm like thinking like, who would I want to bring on the podcast to be a guest? And originally I thought of her because, we do homeschool together. I was like, well, I only homeschool two children. She homeschools more than two. And I was like, well, maybe we'll have a conversation about homeschool. Well, recently, one night I was just scrolling on Facebook and Facebook and TikTok. And I saw she was posting videos about her blended family experience. I was like, that's it. That's what we need to talk about because I also have a blended family. And so I was like, well, let me see if she wants to do it. And of course, she said yes. So I would like for everyone to welcome my friend. She is a mother. She's a wife. She's a homeschool mom. She is a speaker who has spoken on multiple homeschool conferences. She is also the director of programs for an organization called The Fine Design. And she's just an all around just bomb boss, and I love her. Please welcome Destini Burns.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. Like I was saying, like originally I was like, let's talk about homeschool. Like she homeschools multiple children. Like she almost got a football team over there.
I do.
And I was like, just one night, just scrolling on Facebook, and I was like, oh, she's like talking about her blended family experience. I'm like, that would be the perfect conversation for us to have. Like we could talk about homeschool, but I feel like that's an even better conversation for us to discuss.
Absolutely.
So I was like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
So I guess we could start with just telling our blended family stories. I am a blended family. I have one child from a previous relationship. My husband has one child from a previous relationship, and then we have one child together. Okay. So all in total, we have 3 children.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have way more than me, so you go ahead and talk about it.
I do. So we have 11 in total. So I always start with that. My husband had 3 sets of twins from a previous relationship. I had one child from a previous relationship. So when we got together in the beginning, we had 7, right? So you would think someone would say, oh, girl, that's a big enough family. Stop there, Not me. Somewhere it said be fruitful. And I was like, I want more kids. So I added 4. We added 4 to the bunch. So that's what rounded out the 7. And I always tell people we were really supposed to add 3 to the bunch because I just knew I was done after my son. I had been trying for a son. So my oldest daughter from my previous relationship, girl, then my husband and I, girl. And so I told him, I was like, okay, initially I told him like, I'm going to give you 5 chances, right? And so he already has sons from his other relationship, but I wanted a boy, right? Like a biological son. Mm-hmm. So we had, I got pregnant with King. His name is King. And I was like, oh, good. Okay, I'm done. Boom. And I was done. I was done in theory. I wasn't done like medically or anything like that, which is what got me, I'm sure. And then lo and behold, about 2 years later, I was like, something ain't right. And the thing that wasn't right was I was pregnant again. I was like, oh, okay. But no, so we have 11 in total. It's definitely a yours, mine, and ours situation. It's definitely been a journey. I'm not going to say it's been a battle, but it has been a very interesting journey. And I created a TikTok because I wanted to start sharing with the world what it's like to be a bonus mom, what it's like to be a stepmom. I think we see all this stuff, but none of us talk about it in ways that are healthy. None of us talk about it in ways that we're all just trying to figure stuff out. And so that's what I was like. And I actually talked to my therapist about it. I was like, I think I'm going to start a TikTok. And she was like, really? And I was like, no, I'm about to tell it all. Like I'm telling, because we make it look good. People out here who are really trying, they make it look good. They don't show the tears. They don't show the anxiety.
frustration.
They don't show the frustration. They don't show the pillow talk. They don't show how we have to, at times, uplift our spouses.
Or
Um,
bite our tongues.
or bite our tongues, and they don't even show the times when we don't bite our tongues, and when we're like, well, we just don't go there. And so that is really what I wanted to talk about, but in a way that shed light on how I, as a woman, continue to be a bonus mom no matter what. And that's why I started my TikTok.
Gotcha. I was like just reading, like, 'cause I didn't know like the statistics on like blended families. And I found this article on family.lovetoknow.com, and it said 16% of children live in blended families, and 40% of families in the US are blended, with at least one partner having a child from a previous relationship or previous marriage. And when I read that, I was like, I would think that that number would be bigger, like, because like even when I grew up, it was like a blended family situation. Like my mother had three children by the same person, and then so my father has three children with me and my brothers, and then she went on to have more children, and so it was like a blended, family situation. And then here I am now having a blended family, and I see people who are actually going through this, and I'm like, that number to me should be higher.
I mean, I do think that it's so interesting that you say that, because when you start to look at blended families, right, you really have to start looking at the dynamic of the marriage, right? And I tell people this all the time. Like, so my husband was not married to the mother of his children, right? So a lot of times when I think the statistics that we get from blended families are from first marriages, and then you have second marriages. So you don't really see that quote unquote blended family when it comes to like someone who wasn't married, right?
And
And
had
so,
multiple children by different people. To me, that's still a blended family, because
absolutely.
even though my father wasn't in my life growing up, like my brothers that my mother had after us, like their fathers were in their life, and they still also did stuff for us, even
Mhm.
though they weren't our fathers. Like they would still do stuff for us as well. So it's like, to me, that's blended.
Yeah, yeah. And what's so interesting about it when you really start to look at the statistics? So the statistics, at least based off of what people, and I'm gonna put that in quotes because people can get data from anywhere, right?
Hmm.
You can find data that supports pretty much anything that you want to say. And we've seen
Uh-huh.
that all throughout, the last few years, from politics to,
Cool.
to everything. Okay.
Hmm.
Data is You can find data on everything. So it says that there's about 40% of first marriages that fail.
Hmm.
60% of second marriages end in divorce. And then it says that when there is children from a previous relationship, that the divorce rate is 70%. And that it says, it's cited in saying, and this is in RajiShaheed.com, that stepkids and ex-spouses are often cited when second marriages fail. So
Wow.
think about that. Think about what we're talking about. Blended families, it's not easy. And I tell people that all the time. Like,
Oh, yes.
don't get it twisted. Like, again, we're out here, we're smiling, we're trying to make it work, but it honestly takes two emotionally stable, really four. Because if you have a
Hmm.
marriage and you're married to someone,
Hmm.
right? And then let's say your spouse, so in my situation and even yours, we're looking at two different sets of parents, like me and my daughter's father, my
Hmm.
husband, and then the father I mean the mother of his children, right?
Hmm.
But then, like, my daughter's father is married again, so then there's another parent involved,
Hmm.
right? Then my husband's the mother of his children, she is not married, but I do believe she's in a relationship, so that's another set, right? And
Hmm.
you would think that there should be a
For us
way
to be one big old happy family and
to
everybody
be
just gets
one big
along.
old something, you know. It needs to be something. It needs to be two or three sets of emotionally stable adults. That's what
Yeah.
it needs to be.
And so that's what I want to talk about next. So, for the most part, and this is my experience. So, for the most part, when it comes to my daughter from my previous relationship, I wasn't married to him. You know, I guess you could say high school sweethearts, whatever. We met in high school, whatever, had her. And our relationship, as far as us co-parenting has always been kind of, I don't want to say rocky, but we don't agree on the way that we choose to parent. So there's things that I choose to do. Homeschooling is one of them. Choosing not to vaccinate, that's another. Like things like that we don't agree on.
Mhm.
But one thing that he has always done is he has been there for our daughter, because that was my one thing. Like having her at like 21, like that was my thing. Like I don't
Mhm.
care what happens with us, you need to
Mhm.
always be there for her. And he has done that. Like we disagree on how I choose to raise her, how I choose to go through, like if she's in trouble and she gets some punishment, stuff like that. They don't, his side of the family doesn't agree on that. But for the most part, we co-parent in an efficient way.
Mhm.
But when it comes to, and again, this is my husband's story to tell, but just from me looking in, when it comes to his situation, it's always been like turmoil, like always been turmoil.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's unfortunate because I am the type of person, like like I've known my husband's son since he was a baby. My
Mhm.
husband has known my daughter since she was a baby. So
Mhm.
we've been friends. Like we've always known each other. So we have always been in our children's lives. And then
Mhm.
we got together on and off, got married and all that stuff. And so um I would, like you said, like I saw one of your videos you did, I think yesterday, where you were saying like how the bonus mom wants to, like, you do things like you buy things for the child and you show up for the child, and you're trying to show that this person, like, I love your child, like I am here to help, I'm here to support in any way necessary to raise this child. Like that's what I'm here for. I'm not
Mhm.
here to replace you. I'm not here to one up you. I'm solely here to help, right? But then you look at that person who may still be hurting from something that happened 10, 20 years ago, may still have hatred towards you, may, like, see that you guys are now married and you're happy and you're doing things, doing big things or whatever, and then there's some type of animosity, like all of that. And then you think, like, why don't you just do what's best for the child, right? And so, as a person who, one, didn't grow up with her father, uh two, who co-parents with someone else, and then now I am married to someone who has to co-parent with someone, like it's just so much levels to co-parenting and to having a blended family, and I don't think people realize that.
No, I think that I'll say this, and I feel like this is the bedrock of everything I have to say. It takes emotionally stable adults. I have found that, and I always said it's so funny. The biggest mistake I made in becoming a bonus mom was thinking that everybody was a mom like me. And everybody's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, exactly what it means. I had my daughter when I was 20. I was in college, so it sounds very similar. 20 years old is when I had her. It was like 11 days before my 21st birthday. So I couldn't even drink and I was having children, okay? But I had her. I was still in college. Me and her dad were in a relationship. We were friends. And so one of the things that I knew, because let me back up. So I grew up in a situation where I say to this day that my parents are just weird around each other. And I don't know. And granted, my parents haven't been together since I was like 12, but it's just really weird. Like they can be around each other, but it's a lot of like, hey, hey, you know, like, it's just so weird. And
Awkward.
I awkward. And I did not want my children to experience that. And I told myself, I said, I don't care if I'm with the dad for 500 years or if I'm with him for 5 minutes. Like my children will not experience the weird. If
Mhm.
I want to have a birthday party for my daughter, our daughter, I want to have one birthday party. I don't
Mhm.
want her to be traveling across America trying to have 50 birthday parties, 50 Christmases for those who celebrate, 50 this, 50 that. I don't want that. And so I made sure, in the best of my ability, trying to keep my emotional regulation under control. When it came to my daughter, hey, do you need a ride to this? Hey, do you need me to pack her bag? Hey, is everything okay? Like, is there something that I can do? And even when he decided to get married, I made sure, I'm not gonna be like, there were some hiccups. It wasn't many because I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Like, I'm not this ain't that, as they say today. And I made sure that no matter what, my daughter never heard me speak down about her father. And I really didn't have too much bad to say about him anyway, just to be real. I don't. We were college students when we had baby. Like, we was both broke. You know what I'm saying? We was both. we were both in that situation. It was college. I am not attracted to him physically, emotionally anymore. The one thing that we have in common, the
It's
one
her.
thing is her. And
Mhm.
so you're right, not telling my husband's story, but also, I mean, we've been married for almost 11 years in November. So I too have been there since since his children and my children. My daughter was 2 when I got with him. The twins were 3, 2, and 1, right? So
Mhm.
they were babies for all intents and purposes. And so a lot of stuff, it's not about telling his story, it's about telling my side of his story, right? Because I was there. I was the
Mhm.
support. So
Mhm.
I saw when his child support left,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I saw and I went and we not saw, I lived through
Mhm.
us being on child support. And I
Mhm.
say us because at the end of the day, financially, a lot of things fell on me.
Mhm.
Because when you have a spouse and a majority of their check goes outside of the home,
Mhm.
you are left to pick up the pieces. Not left in the sense of like he wasn't doing anything, but left is in like, okay, how are we going to make this work? Right? Because I still want to be able to go on vacation. I still want to be able to buy what I want to buy. And
Mhm.
I understand that he's in a situation where he has an obligation to care for his children, right?
Mhm.
Financially as well as physically. I
Mhm.
think my issue is it always goes back to the emotional stability of the adults, because it takes two people to have a conversation. It
Mhm.
takes two people to say, you know what, we have this child, let's set some boundaries, right? Like I may not run my household like you run your household, but if I'm doing anything that is putting our child in direct harm,
Mhm.
I need you to speak to me. Don't roll up on me. Don't cuss me out. Don't blast me on Facebook. Don't
Mhm.
try to run up. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk ill about me in front of my children. Like that is an adult to adult conversation. And
Mhm.
I
At
think
your
that
age, not your shoe size.
actor age, not your suicide. And I think that as adults, especially in the black community, this is what I'll say. I think the narrative that we see is the baby mama drama narrative. That's
Mhm.
number one. Number two, I think that as people of color and families of color, we have to understand our family dynamics. And just because grandma, auntie, cousin, sister, neighbor acted that way when the father of her children came around does not mean that you have to emulate that and imitate that. And I
Mhm.
think that, and I will say also, knowing the people that I know now who co-parent and are trying to blend families the best that they can, I believe that it's more on the contrary. I believe that there are many more people like us who can
Mhm.
co-parent effectively and who look like
Mhm.
us. I just don't think that that's the narrative that we see on social media. That's not the narrative that they see of us in movies.
Mhm.
And as many of my friends that I talk to, they have the same issues. They have the same struggles. They
Mhm.
go through the same stuff that we do. The difference is you don't see them blasted on social media. You don't see
Mhm.
they mamas dumping out McDonald's on the floor, right? It's a totally separate narrative when it comes to co-parenting in communities that are not of color. And
Mhm.
so I really just want to highlight that as well, that we can blend families. It takes a little bit more. It takes
Mhm.
emotional stability. At times it may take therapy. Sometimes it may take writing out a contract. It may take multiple times of just trying and trying and trying. But before we know it, like we can co-parent effectively, even if that means that we're half co-parenting. And what I mean by that is when we have the children, we are being the example for them. So
Yeah.
that way, if our children have children and they end up in a similar situation, which hopefully not, hopefully by now, by the time our children start having children, we understand mate selection. We understand what it means to be equally yoked. We understand those things and we're passing them down to our children. But if
Mhm.
not, then when they're in my house, you're not gonna hear me talking bad about your mother. Now, I will
Exactly.
tell the truth. That let's be clear. I
Yes.
do tell I am very transparent. I always produce receipts. I
Mhm.
always produce receipts,
And
especially if they ask me questions.
yeah, and so that's how like my husband is with his son, with our son. Like that's how he is with him. Like he, shows proof. And again, I'm the same way. Like I never, because I had my mother did that. My mother talked down about my father to us, and I always said like I don't do that. I do not do that. I do not put up with that. And I feel like when he's there, oh, I am all kinds of names, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? And I don't internalize that because one, that it does not serve me, it does not serve us, it does not help us as a family. And one time I actually had a conversation with my bonus son. And I told him at this point, he probably was like 11 or 12 maybe. And I told him straight up, like, I don't hate your mother. I don't hate her. I have no ill intent towards her. I was
Right.
like, there's no way that I can look you in the face and tell you that I love you and at the same time hate her. They cancel each other out. I can't do that. I
Mhm.
love her because I love you. You are a part of her. You are a part of your father. So I cannot hate her because of past situations or past things. I'm above that now. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Not saying that in the past when I was young and dumb, I didn't make mistakes. But what I'm saying is like we have to grow. And
Yes,
you can't force anybody to heal, or you can't tell a person when to heal, how to heal. But at the end of the day, once you have a child, your feelings go out the window. How
absolutely.
you feel about something goes out the window. And so to me, it's like the relationship that a child, and this is from somebody who grew up without her father. A relationship with a child and their father is just as important as a relationship with their child with their mother. Just as important,
Hmm.
especially if they have siblings.
Hmm.
Especially if they have siblings, because once all said and done, when mom and dad aren't here, siblings is all your child is going to have, to be
Absolutely.
there to support each other. So it's like, I don't, you're right, it has to be a level of emotional maturity.
Hmm.
But then it's like, what do you do with the people that don't? And so
Hmm.
like, again, not to tell my husband, but
Hmm.
he's in a position where he just like, he's doing similar to what my dad did, because my dad went through the same thing with my mom. And so it took me having my daughter at 21, reaching
Hmm.
out to my father and being like, you have a granddaughter. You got two options. You're going to be in or be out. And for us to have a conversation, for him to tell his side of the story. And he basically said he had to make a choice.
Hmm.
I was going to either continue to fight with your mother to see you
Hmm.
and do something that I was going to regret, or I had to step back and pray that my children come to me. And so
Hmm.
I feel like that's where my husband is right now. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like if we get a call saying come get him, we go get him. No ifs,
Hmm.
ands, and buts about it. We don't ask no questions. But then there's periods of time where he's being kept from us. And then now my son is asking, well, is my brother coming to my birthday party?
Hmm.
He's asking questions like
Hmm.
this,
Yeah.
and it's sad because even her friends are reaching out to me. Her
Yeah.
friends that I've never spoken to, that I don't know, I have no relationship with, are hitting me on Instagram wanting to have a conversation with me, trying to figure out how we can mend this.
Yeah.
I've extended olive branches. I've
Yeah.
invited her and the son to birthday parties. I've
Hmm.
extended olive branches and get ignored because there's still hate there. There's still animosity there. So like
Hmm.
as a mom who wants to be able to, help her, because I know what it's like to be a single mother,
Hmm.
right? And so I'm like, I don't want to fight you. I want to help you. That's
Hmm.
what I want to do. Like his father's always on the road working. We live in the same city. If you need help, I'm here to help you. You need to drop him off, drop him off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But because you have so much animosity and so much hatred between of the individual that your child's father married, you choose to just struggle and be upset. And
Yeah.
to me, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I have read so much up on this because again, when I first started, no one could have ever told me what it was going to be like to be a bonus mom.
Mm.
Not in a million years. I believe that my husband had it way better being a stepdad. He didn't have to go through half as much as I went through, and I told him that all the
Exactly.
time.
Same.
I'd be like, yeah, you might have had to, you backed me up in a few situations, but let's be real, like it was not. This ain't that again. This
Exactly.
ain't that, right?
Same
Um,
here. Like when my daughter's father comes, like he speaks to him, they dap up. We be at birthday parties together.
Together.
Like me and her
Yes,
dad,
yes,
like we go. Like she wanted to take her dad to like it's like a market type thing downtown. Like me, my son, her, and her father are downtown while my husband's working, and like
yeah,
everybody's assuming that we're his family, and
yeah,
like he's uncomfortable. He was like. And I was like, thank you. Like the person was like, oh, you have a beautiful family. This is what they said to my daughter's father. And he just looking, and I'm like, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
that's how it's supposed to be.
It is.
Technically, we
It
are
is.
family.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and it's and I think what we're missing is it's the village, right?
Hmm.
So the a few things that like a few tactics that I like pull really out of this. One is like understanding that not everybody is going to like you or agree with what you do, right? I and as you said, like I've extended olive branches. I'll just be honest with you. I've extended them and stopped because
Oh,
for
me
my
too.
peace, right, right. Listen, for my peace is important. My
Hmm.
peace is so important that I'm not going to let anything get in the way of my marriage. And I love my biological children, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, they're gonna get up, they're gonna grow up, they gonna get married, and guess who I'm gonna be left with? I'm either gonna be left with a man who I don't know because we've
Hmm.
been faking it for years, trying to just
Hmm.
make it right, or I'm going to be left with my spouse, the person I was placed here to help and to grow, right? And
Hmm.
so even when it comes to like my bio children and that situation with their mother, there have been times when she needed help. And again, remember my our situation, we had child support. Most people, a lot of people have child support. So my husband couldn't do it. So there were times where she reached out for gas money, and guess whose pocket the gas money came out of? Sis. There were times when she has reached out for extra food because her benefits have ran out when she had custody of the children. And I'll kind of get to that because I feel like that's important.
Hmm.
So in being separated, there is a percentage, and I don't remember what the percentage is. Well, there's a year after separation or divorce, the separated parent can go through up to at least 2 years of the stages of grief. Okay, there are 5 different stages of grief. So when we talk about grief, a lot of times we talk about a death, right? Somebody done died. But in this situation, if you are not in the home with your child that you help to create every day, you don't get to see them wake up, you don't get to see them do all those things, then that is where grief can set in. Your denial, there's anger, there's bargaining. Okay, well, maybe if I do this, then they can do this, or maybe if I can do this. That's where you start to see, I think, fathers really spin their wheels because they're trying to
There's
spin their
also
children's
shame.
lives. There's shame, right? There's
Hmm.
depression. So it's funny that you say, like, well, right now, I think my husband is just in this place of like, okay, well, if he called, what up? Because I remember my husband going through these stages of grief. I remember that man crying because he couldn't see his children. And
Hmm.
not because he couldn't see them, but because when he would call, somebody would hang up the phone. Or when he called, his number would be blocked. Or call, did he have a number? Because right now he's even in a situation. Here's the thing: we have custody of his twins now, right?
Hmm.
So there's joint custody on paper, but he's a primary parent right now. Let's say something happened to the children, something where you would want to contact the other parent. He doesn't have a number for this other parent. He has an email that very probably doesn't get checked, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's like, but guess what? It's okay. So my husband went through the denial. He went through the anger. He was in the angry phase for a long time. He was angry because he couldn't see his children. He and to the point where they would argue and fight. But obviously, that's not healthy, right? Then
Hmm.
you go to bargaining. Okay, well, I'll come do this. Well, what happens in that stage of grief in co-parenting is that you can have one parent kind of use the other child or children as a pawn, right? So if you do this, then I'll let you come get the kids. If
Hmm.
you do this, I'll come do this. But if you don't do this, or if I feel like I'm not getting what it is that I want from you, then you're not going to be able to see the children, right? So
Hmm.
there's that bargaining piece that unfortunately there's not mediation. There's like a I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And that's because, in my personal opinion, when it comes to co parenting laws, I just think in most states they're antiquated. Most states automatically favor the woman,
Hmm.
and I get that maybe in the 1930s through the 1950s because statistically women were at home. And so it
Hmm.
makes sense. Let's give the child to the person who's at home and who can quote unquote care. But probably since the women's liberation movement and whatever people believe in that, when women started working outside the home, that
Hmm.
is when the child care in the sense of like when you have two parents that are no longer together. But obviously the divorce rate went up too, right? When feminism really hit the scene, everything changed. Divorce rate went up, separation went up,
Which was intentional because that's what that whole movie was about. It was about separating
separating
the
families.
family.
Absolutely. So when you have things like that, now it shouldn't be, well, the mom automatically gets the child. No, it needs to be who can care for the child in the most proper way. And
Hmm.
should we be granting sole custody to somebody unless you can prove that somebody is abusive, sexually, physically, emotionally, that they're not where they're supposed to be, we really need to take almost a holistic approach when it comes to who gets these children,
And
who
it's
has the
even
better environment,
and
who.
it's even more difficult than when they were never married. You know,
Absolutely.
so it's even more difficult because, again, like when the person has been married, then there may be like where there's joint custody, but when the individuals have never been married, the
You really
child will
need to look at
automatically,
everything.
yeah, the mom will automatically have sole custody of the child. And so
Yeah.
the father's fighting to see the
Hmm.
child,
Hmm.
even though he's paying child support, even though he's doing everything
Hmm.
he's supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
And the court's like, well, we can't help you.
Yep. And that's where one of the things that I really do on my TikTok is like, it's maybe about once every week, once every 2 weeks, I'll start looking at the parental rights handbook. So every state pretty much has, like in the state of Tennessee where I am, the state has, well, the custody courts, I guess family court has
Mhm.
something called like the Parents' Bill of Rights. Most states have them. And I really and highly suggest that people start looking at the state Bill of Rights, because a lot of the stuff that single parents go through, specifically single dads,
Mhm.
because let's be real, we just said that the women are usually the ones who get the children. So, specifically single dads, there are things that I know their rights are infringed upon. Now, here's the deal, it's all a system about access. Do I have the money to get a family lawyer to take this person to court every time I think that they or their family is slandering me? Do I
Mhm.
have money every time I feel like my child is, I send them mail, but they're never receiving it? Like, so it's things like that. It has to do with access, right? Equity, things like that. But then, like, you said something that stuck out about your husband. You was like, now he's just in a place of like, okay, maybe my children will come back. So my husband was in that place, right? He's literally been through all of these different stages, and he went from there to really like fighting, because I knew it was in his heart that he wanted his children. Now, here's the thing, and this one I'm gonna lay down to all bonus moms, stepdads, real dads, everybody. When we got our bonus children, when we got custody of them on paper, that my husband was the primary, I could have never imagined how much trauma those children had been through. So when they came into our home, we in our heads, I believe, imagined the 2 and 3 year olds, right? We imagined those young children, and not even young, because it's not like he hadn't been in their lives since they were 2 or 3. Like, he had been in their lives intermittently, not
Mhm.
not by choice. I'm to be
Mhm.
clear, like by
Mhm.
choice, he would have been there way more. My husband has
Mhm.
asked for custody plenty more times, because there were times when their parent was homeless or without a house. There were times when she needed things she didn't have. She was unable to work for whatever reason, or couldn't have sustainable employment. And so there were plenty of times when my husband said, hey, let me get 3, you keep 3, I'll keep 3, that'll give you a chance. Hey, I have more kids over here anyway, so actually it'd be quote unquote more of a financial strain on me than it would you. Like, let me do it. It was always enough, right? So when we finally got the children in our home Monday through Friday, sun up to sundown, that wasn't for a weekend, or that wasn't for whatever, we started to see all of these traumas. The trauma started to manifest, which is normal in the way that the children transition to our home, or just in general. But I did not realize the effect that it would have on my biological children, right? So
Mhm.
you always, as women, as specifically as stepmoms, bonus mom, we have our biological children. We're like lionesses. Like, I'm going to be a lioness for any of the children that come in my home. But there's
Yes.
something about when your children are, you feel that their way of life, or their safety is being infringed upon.
Mhm.
Now that puts us as bonus parents in a really tough spot, because a piece of it is like, okay, like, I know that these, my bonus children are an extension of my husband, right? They're an
Mhm.
extension of everything that I hold dear. And when I got with him, I knew he had the bonus children. So I can't say, forget that, right? But
Mhm.
then on one hand, if I'm seeing the safety, if you will, of your biological children, and you're like, wait a minute, they're not used to this, right? Because
Mhm.
remember, different household, different rules, different boundaries, different way of life, different religious system, possibly,
Different
or
values.
no, different values, different ethics, different, different beliefs, just in everything. And
Mhm.
so we're over here and we're trying to establish structure and a little bit of order. And we're trying to say, hey, it doesn't work that way. So what we had to do was we had to get counseling. Every one of my bonus children is in therapy. My oldest biological daughter is in therapy. I am in therapy. And I tell every bonus mom that I run into, get a therapist. Because especially if you have a situation that is as volatile, that you have to work out your own emotions, that you see your husband going through these different stages of grief, and you can't be the one to block him like you would in any other situation, that
Mm-hmm.
weighs on us mentally. And so we really have to be intentional about making sure that we have steps. And I always tell people therapy because, regardless of if you're, you're Islam, you're Buddha, whatever you believe in, you still need a therapist. I tell people this all the time. The altar is not a therapist. You can go there, you can pray to the ancestors, you can pray to whoever, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're going to need somebody. If you're going through something like this, where there's no manual, there's no ain't too many podcasts. So I'm glad we talking about this on your ain't too many podcasts talking about blended families, especially not black ones.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't too many podcasts, ain't too many documentaries talking about this and how to do all the like we are literally flying, we are building the plane and flying it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go through these different motions with our bonus children, with our biological children, trying to blend the family, trying to keep it as healthy as possible, sometimes we need an outlet. Not sometimes, many times we need an outlet. We need to learn how to set boundaries. We need to take mental breaks. It's okay to say no. Those are all things I had to learn. So I'm preaching to
Mm-hmm.
myself. We have to learn how to say no. Hey, I can't do that today.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no, we're not going to be able to do that in the house. Or, hey, yeah, that's okay. Or tell me about this. How did your mom do it? Right? Is that something that we can transfer over here?
Mm-hmm.
Showing that courtesy, even though it's not always shown to us. Right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's really it's kind of a give and take.
Yeah.
We figuring this thing out all at the same time, trying to give each other tips and tricks.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you say that. So I was another article that I read on verywellfamily.com, and it stated that the four biggest problems blended families face are sibling rivalry, children need for attention, step parent discipline, and lack of family bonds. And I thought it was very interesting. So it had me like, my wheels were spinning and I'm thinking like, does any of those apply to us? And I'm honestly gonna say that 3 out of 4 of those apply to our situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the sibling rivalry and the children need for attention is like one for us. And then
Mm-hmm.
also the lack of family bonds. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain. So um my son, the son that me and my husband have together, he has never had to fight anyone or like do a tug of war with my husband's attention,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He has been born. When he wants daddy time, he gets
It
daddy
gets daddy
time.
time.
When daddy comes home from work, it's daddy time. Like, oh yes, I'm spending all my time with dad. Oh, I get to play this video game with dad. Like we get to go on, we get to go on little adventures, all the jazz, right? And so for the little bit of time that that my bonus son was able to be in our lives, because again, they got snatched right back. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
last long, maybe a few months, and they
Mm-hmm.
got snatched right back.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband, like I had to watch him like try to balance that, because it's like as soon as he gets home, he got these two boys that have all this energy. All they want to do is talk, just pulling on his energy, pulling on his energy, pulling on his energy. He was like, they are so much. They are a lot. So it's like, what I'm saying? It was like never anything, because my bonus son, he is 13. My son, he just turned 5. So they were like, I just like really just watched it. It was never like that with me, with them trying to pull for my attention. It was like that for him, because again, like one has been in and out of his father's life since he
Mm-hmm.
was born. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other has always had daddy's attention. So it's like, it's that tug of war that he had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
or, just big brothers just being big brothers and doing things to tease the little one. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, don't do that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So then I gotta be like, I gotta step in. And they got to a point where I told my husband, okay, you need to, I've said all I can say. Like, it's your turn now to like nip this in the bud. Like, he's
Mm-hmm.
intentionally picking, let's stop this,
Yeah.
doing things like that. And then the other one was the family bond one. So again, like this goes back to me, like just in a perfect world, right? Like we just wish that there would be more of a bond, that where we could all depend on each other to do the thing that we're supposed to do, which is raise our children, which is to guide them and to protect them and to make sure that they are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the family bond thing. Like, for in the beginning, me and my husband just celebrated our 6-year anniversary. But we
Congratulations.
thank you. We've been married for 6 years. I've known this man for 14 years. We've dated on and off for like 12 of those years. And then we got married 6 years ago. So I've known this man for a long time. And so in the beginning, I was like, in the perfect world, like, we just gonna all be cool. Like, she gonna be like, hey, I need
Mm-hmm.
you to come get Anthony, or I need blase. I'm like, okay, sure, cool, no problem. Or she'll call, oh well, I want to take the children this place today. Is it okay? Like, yeah, girl. So, like, that you would think that type of bond would
Mm-hmm.
be created, and then it's not always the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. As you read those four, I was like, shoot, I think we struggle with all four of those. And this is what I'll say. Again, I'm gonna say it to the cows comes home. It comes down to emotionally mature adults. Why? Because children between the ages really, so studies will show that the brain is fully developed at 27, right? So
Mm-hmm.
between 0 and 27, we're all amygdala is emotion. Okay, we also know that between, in the Bible it'll say, the age of accountability is around 12. Some researchers say it's somewhere between 7 and 12. So think about it, whoever their majority influence is between the ages of, let's just say, 0 and 12, if they heard all types of negative, if they heard he's taking more care of those children over there than you, if they heard, well, when you go over there you need to use your dad and her money and do all this kind of stuff, then guess what they're going to come over and do? Even if they love you, even if they care, they're not really acting out their actions. They're
Mm-hmm.
acting out the actions of whatever adult is their primary person, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that I learned. Number two, and I had to stop taking it personally because for a while I took it real personal. And
Yeah.
I think as a stepmom, one of the things I really had to learn how to do is not to put my weight onto my husband. Another reason why I went to therapy. Because what I realized is, and we as wives, we can do this. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to be careful because we can manipulate the situation because we're trying to look out for what? Our babies, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to make sure my baby all right. Not saying yours can't be all right, because they can, as long as my babies ain't, right? And so being emotionally mature adults all the way around, that took practice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have people in your house that don't follow your rules, it's easy to find something. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, why you ain't picked that up? Why you ain't doing this? Why is this not like this? So, and it became a toxic environment that I realized I was contributing to. And
But
that
what's crazy is I didn't have that issue with my bonus son. Like, I would say something once, twice max, and that was it.
mm,
Like, I'm like, well, if you're here, so it's everybody's responsibility to contribute to the household. If you
yeah,
see the trash need to get taken out, take the trash out.
yeah,
So, like, I didn't have those issues because he was doing it, right? He
yeah,
was
yeah,
doing it. The only thing that was hard for him is that we don't watch TV or play video games before 3 o'clock in our house. That
gotcha.
was hard for him. We
Right,
also
right,
don't
right.
eat. We also don't eat meat in our house. That
Yeah.
was hard for him. You know what I'm saying? But him, like, listening to what I asked him to do,
hmm
that part wasn't hard. Actually, it was
hmm
pretty easy. Like, he knew that Toy didn't play with him. He knew that.
And
You know
so
what I'm saying?
you say that, and what's so funny is, so like we didn't have the issue of them not listening. It was an attitude that came behind it, right? And granted, my husband, so in my bonus situation, we have girls, right? Sometimes boys are a little bit easier anyway, because to be honest, my bonus sons really didn't give me no issues.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. I think they saw it. They saw that their daddy loved this lady. And so they were like, oh, okay, cool, fine. You know what I'm saying? And to be fair, I think that the people we had the most, not the people we had, the ones I had the most issues with were the girls. And it wasn't that they were blatantly disrespectful. It was that I know girls. So I think about and I had to put myself in my oldest daughter because I talk to her a lot. She's 14, but that was, that's my ace boon coon. I had her when I was a kid, right? And so we would talk, and I would say, I would ask her different questions because she's a kid. So I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe she's going to give me the experience. She's a child. She's going to give me the experience or from her viewpoint. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, am I going crazy? But like, is that too much? And I think that I had to learn over time. One, my daughter is very much like me. I
Mm-hmm.
was the main female influence in her life. The reason that she had the relationship with her father that she had is because I made sure the relationship was there.
Mm-hmm.
I did not become a stumbling block. If she wanted, now I did get mad at him and frustrated at him sometimes because I'm like, hey, she's trying to call you. Why you ain't calling her? She's 5. She don't need to be calling you. You need to be calling her. Right? Those were the things. Those are conversations that I had with my husband away from her. Those are conversations that I had with her dad when I stepped out of the room to make sure she was never in earshot of what it is that I was saying or trying
Mm-hmm.
to implore him to do. Right? What I
Mm-hmm.
realized after building relationship with my bonus children, I realized that that was not necessarily the case. Since then, they have shared things with me that their mother, I'm sure, would be mortified because they're trying to figure everything out. They've heard that this family over here kept, their dad away and all these kinds of things. And so, but when they're over there and they start to talk to us and we're like, oh, well, no, we tried. Then as they are more with us and they're more in therapy, they're starting to, it's almost like you can see them now in this space where they're like, well, you know what? I do remember when he would call and she would hang up and laugh with her friends, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now they're at an age, they're all teenagers. They're about to be 15. The oldest set of twins will be 15. Then my daughter's 14. Then we have the set of boys is 14. Then we have a boy girl 13, and then I have all my singles. So all my teenagers now, specifically my bonus teenagers, now they're in this place of they're putting two and two together, and two and two is making four, but it's not in their head. It's not making four. So they're like, wait a minute, like, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
interesting that you say that because I had a conversation with a friend of mine and with my husband. And so, and this is going back to like personal experience with like me not growing up with my father. Like when it comes to sons and their mothers, that's a thing. That's the thing. And that's what I try to relate to my husband. Like I was that child that was stuck in the middle between my mother and my father. So I
mm,
know I know what he is going through. I know that he probably wants to see you, wants to spend time with you,
mm-hmm,
but he has to also hear and deal with his mother because that's where he lives.
mm-hmm,
And that is hard on a child. Like just to share a quick story, again, like I reached out to my father after I had my daughter, and me and him have been like this ever since. I will go to bat. You don't play with my daddy. You don't
yeah,
play about my
yeah,
daddy, right?
yeah,
We have been like this ever since. If I call him, if I need something, he is always there, right?
yeah.
And so when I first started like hanging out with my dad after years of not seeing him, and I had my daughter, I would ask my brothers like, "Oh, y'all want to go with me to go see daddy?" This is what they say. I lie to you not. No, because I don't want to hear mama mouth. That's the type of shit,
Yeah.
that's the type of
Yeah.
thing, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, and I'm pretty sure it is no difference. No difference. My husband told me one time this woman said that when he comes back home, when the bonus son comes back home, he he I'm sorry,
It's okay.
what was I about to say?
You
Dang
said
it.
when your bonus son comes home.
Yeah, like he's too happy. He's sad when he
Mm,
comes home because when he's with us, he's too happy. How is that a
mm,
bad thing? Right? How is that a bad thing?
yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It again, and what I stress to my bonus children is you all are getting older. Between the ages of 0 and 10, you saw a lot of stuff. Now, your brain, if you believe in the classical education, there's my little homeschool slip for the day, right? If you are classically trained or have read any of those interesting books, they're going to say that right now, all of our teenagers are in that logic stage. So now they're all trying to figure out what the hell we've been giving them for the last well, let's just say 0 through 5th grade. Once you
Mhm.
get to middle school up until early high school, that logic brain is starting to kick in. The
Mhm.
questions are going to start coming. Now it's up to us as adults how we answer those questions. We can tell the truth or we cannot tell the truth. We can
Mhm.
uphold what we thought we've been doing. Um, Okay, we can hold what we thought we've been doing, what we thought was right, or we cannot, right? And so what I've started to tell them as questions come up, and they'll say, "Well, we asked, our mom this, and she told us to shut up. She said that that's not how it is, right?" But then when they come over our house, I always tell them like, "Okay, well, what y'all want to know?" And they might ask me a question. I say, "Look, I don't know that much. That's your daddy's question. Like I can answer some stuff. I can't answer some of the, some other stuff. That's your daddy's
Mhm.
question." And so he is, and I tell him, like, you need to tell the truth because they're teenagers and they're going to
Mhm.
figure it out one way or
Mhm.
the other because now they're starting, it's funny you say that. So my dad and I had a very interesting relationship. Remember, I told you him and my mom had a very interesting relationship. I knew too much about their divorce, entirely too much. I shouldn't have known. I was too young to know what the hell two adults were doing, but I knew that
Mhm.
made me, I felt manipulated. And
Mhm.
I wasn't outright manipulated. I believe I was passively aggressively manipulated to have a different type of relationship with my parent. Now, what was funny was it was made to believe like, well, I would encourage you to go to your dad's, but it was the way you encouraged me, right?
Mhm.
So there's a way you can say, "Hey, are you ready to go to your dad's? Like, I know you guys are gonna have fun, da da da." Or you can say, "Are you going to your dad's?" Right?
Mhm.
Two totally different ways.
Your tone.
You think you're gonna have fun? Your energy, right, sis?
Mhm.
It's everything. And so I remember growing up like that. I was that person who was like, "Do I go to my dad?
Should I
Maybe,
go?
maybe I don't want to go, right?" Because children have a loyalty to their mom, regardless, right? That's just nature. I think we have a
Mhm.
loyalty to our moms, even if sometimes our moms are toxic, even if
Mhm.
sometimes it's not necessarily healthy for us. And as adults, we have to learn how to navigate those spaces too. That's a
Mhm.
different conversation. How do
Mhm.
how do we as women navigate mothers who are controlling or toxic, and how does that feed in? I always say, how do you learn how to be a wife if your mama wasn't one? Right now you got to
Listen,
figure it out,
yo,
sis.
that's a whole nother conversation because
That's
I
a
had to
whole
completely disconnect.
You got to draw the boundaries, right? And
Yeah.
so again, even in this bonus parent situation, like I despised my stepmom. I despised with a D. I absolutely love her now. My dad and I did not have a healthy relationship because I blamed him for breaking up my mom and his marriage. Now, child, what I know about that at 10 years old, I
Mhm.
don't. All
Mhm.
I should have known is, you know what, mommy and daddy, maybe they're not together anymore. That doesn't mean that they don't love you. It's just that they can no longer get along. And it's better for them to be apart than to be together. But we can still
Mhm.
love you. We can still work as a unit. We can still
Mhm.
do things. It wasn't like that. And so because it wasn't, we have these children now, an extension of our spouses walking
Mhm.
around. And if we don't have emotionally mature adults around, they gonna feel like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I got my mom over. Like you said, I'm sure your brothers are grown, but guess what they said? I don't want to hear my mama mouth. So you mean you won't have a relationship with your biological parent who put his seed in your mama because as a grown man, 30, 40, 50, however old they are, they scared that your mama gonna say something.
Well, they were
Whereas
still in
you,
they were still in high school. They're younger than me.
gotcha.
They were still in high
Gotcha, gotcha,
school.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? So they were
Yeah,
like maybe like a senior and maybe like a junior in
yeah.
or like a sophomore in high school.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha,
like,
gotcha.
I was driving and all that stuff. Like, y'all can just come with me. It's like, nope, I don't want to hear mama mouth.
Right.
And I'm
But
like,
but but think about the position again that puts them in, right?
yeah.
So ours are in high school, right?
Hmm.
Yours, I think you said yours are in high school. So the
Hmm.
position is if they had two adults
Hmm.
that were emotionally mature and well. Hey, have you seen your dad? Hey, you're playing
Hmm.
basketball, football, whatever. You're making music. You're doing whatever. Like, call your dad. Make sure you tell him. I know, because guess what? I have accepted as a woman that as a certain point, my sons, I nurtured, I breastfed, I did whatever it is that I needed to do for my son. Once he
Hmm.
gets to a certain age, there are things. It's like a rites of passage. There are things that I'm sure I could teach him if I really
But
tried.
it's not the same if a man was to teach it
It's
to
not the same. And guess what? As a mom, I have to learn how to back up, Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna out. Let me talk to your dad about that. Hey, go talk to your dad. Go ask your dad. So there are some things now that I'm like, hey, you got to ask daddy about that. Mommy doesn't know. That's out of my sphere. That's out of my scope of control. That's what I say. It's out of my scope of control. I can't do
Uh-huh.
that. The
Uh-huh.
same with the women. When there's things about your mentees, or you're going through this, your face is breaking out. You're trying to figure out why your mood is changing. That's my job. Sis, come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And even with my bonus children, my bonus daughters, we're going through that right now. That's my job, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really all about making sure that we figure out how to be emotionally well in our situations so that our children don't feel stuck in the middle. It's about
Mm-hmm.
centering them no matter what. And
What?
that
Mhm.
takes us as adults being adults.
Yeah. Being mature, healed, mentally, emotionally adults.
Yep.
So I know you have to go. Did you want to do a part two? You want to continue? What you want to do?
So we can do a part two if you want to, because I know usually with your podcast, because you got a lot of content. So you may want to, like when I did this other lady's podcast, I think we had to do it in two takes. We had to do like a part one and a part two, because we just, we talk so much. You have so much content that you'll be like, dang, like, and we can go into it. So we can either do a part two and you can give me another date, or we could do a part two, or maybe we can do like some bonus or whatever, whatever you want to do, just let me
Okay.
know, because I can always hop on even later today if you want me to. Or
Okay.
we could do some more so that way you can have it for your podcast.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've been on. It says we've been on here for like an hour and 15 minutes. I don't want to hold you,
It's
so
okay. And
we
I
can
would
go ahead.
stay. Listen, I would stay if I'm on 2%. And I was like, Lord, I be done talk. Then all of a sudden it done cut us off, and now I'm all jacked up trying to charge my little phone, uh, so we
Okay,
can
well
get the
let's close
Wi-Fi.
out. Let's
Okay.
close out really quick. So before I close out is a segment that I want to start called "What Are You Rooted In?" So the name of my podcast is "Rooted in Muddy Waters," and after having this discussion, like what I want to ask is like, where are you rooted in? So for me, I'm rooted in the fact that there is no perfect blend. There is no perfect blended family. There's so many dynamics of what a blended family looks like, and there is no perfect blend. Like I
Mhm.
feel like more people need to show the downs as much as the ups, because just like homeschool, right? You see people, oh, she homeschooled this way, oh, they're blended family this way, they look so perfect, I wish mine was like this, but you don't know what that person went through or what it took to get there,
Right.
and that's what people need to show. So what are
Yep.
you rooted in?
I am rooted in village building and legacy building. So to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yes, I totally agree with you. There is no perfect blend. I think we're all learning that as we go. Like there was no manual for this. But I think more importantly, if we focus on legacy, I'm focusing on right now that my children will never have to go through this, because as the mother, as a gatekeeper, I will be able to watch and I'll be able to try to bridge the gap. I won't be a hindrance, but I'll be a help. And that's what I'm rooted in.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Destiny, for joining me. You
Yay!
are officially a friend of the pod. You can come back anytime. We can we can
Yay!
talk for forever. Like we can
Yes,
talk for
child.
hours. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe to Rooted in Muddy Waters. I am on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, sending peace and love your way. Later, loves.